Well, well, well. There are very few certainties living on this blue and green orb rotating the sun. Death, taxes, and the choke goat LeBron James barfing all over himself when it really matters. And ho-hum, nothing to see here, just another first-round playoff exit for the self-proclaimed king. And for those of you who might not be counting, this was LeBron's 5th time out of his 7 seasons in a Lakers uniform where he either missed the playoffs altogether or lost in the first round. The only seasons he made it beyond that point was the hilarious exhibition tournament disguised as an NBA championship on the Disney Bubble campus and the 2023 playoff run where they were swept by the Denver Nuggets. And before we get too lost in the weeds, drowning in a sea of narratives, pumped forth by the horde of LeBron jock sniffers in the mainstream and social media, I'm talking about fantastical stories about not enough help or being too old. Let's just bear in mind, not only is LeBron going to make an All-NBA team designation this season, the Lakers were picked by all 11 NBA experts on ESPN in advance of this series with the Timberwolves. Of the 11 that picked the series, yes, you heard that right, all 11. 11 of 11 took the Lakers. Not just that though, the Lake Show had the 4th shortest odds to win the NBA championship before these playoffs started. The 4th best odds behind only Oklahoma City, Boston, and Cleveland in that order. They fleeced the ever-loving hell out of the Dallas Mavericks for a top 3 player on earth who just last year went to the NBA Championship Series and went directly through this Minnesota team to the tune of a 4-1 gentleman's sweeping. All of it for exactly 1 win in the playoffs this year.
That one right there made me the greatest player of all time.
Which, by the way, is exactly how many they had last season. The Lakers were favored in this very game by 6.5 points at tip-off for what it was worth, yet they were getting absolutely worked for most of the game by the Timberwolves. A Wolves team that was game to keep the Lakers in it to the very end, jacking up an impossible to imagine 47 three-pointers. That is despite the only center on this Lakers team, Jackson Hayes, not playing a single second in this game. JJ Redick instead opting to play 6'8" Rui Hachimura at the center minutes. The Lakers were so insanely small and outmatched in this game that Rudy Gobert and his bum ass had 27 points and 24 rebounds. Yet 3 after 3 after 3 for the Timberwolves, again to the tune of 47 of them, and they made only 7 of 47 from the three-point line. Oh, and did I mention, Jaden McDaniels scored only 8 points and played in just 17 foul trouble-riddled minutes before ultimately fouling out, while last year's 6th Man of the Year winner, Naz Reid, contributed only 3 points off of the bench. Surely it must have been because Anthony Edwards, alleged face of the NBA, or so every pundit on any mass media platform had been letting us know for the last 48 hours. Well, he had to have a massive game to compensate for all of this. No, not exactly. Edwards scored just 15 points on 5 of 19 from the field and 0 of 11 from the three-point line. All of that. And yet the Lakers still couldn't capitalize to keep their season alive at home as a 6.5 point favorite. Of course, none of this should come as any kind of a surprise for LeBron James-led teams, who has been pulling these kinds of choking antics for years. They largely dominated the Nuggets, after all, in both of the last 2 playoff runs, despite losing 4-0 and 4-1 to them, as they led most of those games most of the time, and were in one-score games late in mostly all of them. The same can be said of this series, with the Lakers outscoring the Timberwolves by 6 total points through the first 3 quarters in all 5 games cumulatively of this series. But they got outscored by 42 points in the 4th. And of course, LeBron James, the king of fourth-quarter disappearing acts, led the way, scoring just 5 points on 2 of 9 shooting in the last 2 fourth quarters combined. And one of those field goals was a meaningless layup with the game tonight already over. Podcaster JJ, of course, bows out along with his former wine-sipping co-host Bestie in the first round here, and he was a little testy in his pregame presser as he stormed off of the podium after a reporter insinuated that he needed help from his assistant coaches with the substitutions.
You think I don't talk to my assistants about substitutions every single timeout? That's a weird assumption.
The claims came on the heels of Redick deciding to play all 5 of his starters every second of the second half last game, the first time in NBA playoff history that feat had occurred. Of course, that though is what you get, I suppose, when you have a guy coaching your team who has 0 years of experience at any level. But credit to Redick, he never did lose that characteristic arrogance, the quintessential tone deafness shared by his overrated meal ticket and de facto boss, LeBron, still carrying himself around like he's the GOAT, despite 22 years now officially in the books of unprecedented health and longevity, surrounded by historic all-time greats, and just 4 titles now to show for all of it. Well, 3 in a preseason exhibition tournament, if we're being real.
And I want my damn respect, too.
But there will be plenty of time to unpack all of that on another day. For tonight, we can just all pour one out for yet another predictable LeBron James failure.
Not 5, not 6, not 7.
And that day to further unpack the ramifications to LeBron's legacy of this latest failure will be tomorrow. So make sure you are subscribed to stay up to date with more from me. Until next time, guys.